Hello friends, in this session I shall be focusing on the concept of dyslexia and then I'll be discussing on the signs and symptoms of children having dyslexia. To start with, dyslexia, it's a learning impairment that affects people's ability to read and write. We can say that dyslexia, it's a collection of symptoms that cause people to struggle with specific language abilities, notably reading. Other language skills such as spelling, writing and speaking may be challenging for those with dyslexia. It's very important that these three areas, as I just mentioned, spelling, then writing and speaking, these areas may be challenging for children with dyslexia. So dyslexia, it's a lifelong condition, although we can say its impact varies depending on the stage of a person's life. Dyslexia is considered to be a learning impairment since it may make it extremely difficult for a kid to thrive academically in a traditional classroom setting. So, the definition of dyslexia as given by the International Dyslexia Association in 2002 says that dyslexia, it's a specific learning disability that is neurobiological in origin. It's characterized by difficulties with accurate and or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. These difficulties typically result from a deficit in the phonological component of language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. Secondary consequences may include like problems in reading comprehension and reduced reading experiences that can impede growth of vocabulary and background knowledge. This is what is given, the definition that is given by the International Dyslexia Association in 2002. So, we can say that dyslexia, it's a learning impairment marked by the problems with accurate or fluent word recognition, as well as we can say that poor spelling and decoding abilities, as the definition also mentioned this. So, these issues are usually caused by a phonological component of language that is not up to pace with other cognitive talents or the provision of appropriate classroom teaching. So, secondary effects, as we can say, we can understand from this definition that secondary effects might include difficulties with reading comprehension and a lack of reading experiences, both of which can impede the development of vocabulary and background information of the child with dyslexia. Now, despite the fact that the exact causes of dyslexia are unclear, still morphological and brain imaging investigations show that dyslexic people's brains develop and function differently. That was seen. So, furthermore, you can say that it has been demonstrated that people with dyslexia have trouble identifying sounds inside the word. That is also very important. In a word, they face difficulty identifying the sounds of the word, which is a major factor in their reading difficulties. So, as I was mentioning that IDA, that is International Dyslexia Association, which states that dyslexia, it's not caused by a lack of intelligence or a willingness to learn. Dyslexics may learn successfully with the right teaching method. So, we can understand from this statement that we as a teacher, we have that responsibility to provide them with appropriate teaching learning methods so that our children with dyslexia, they can able to learn better. Now, it is when we are discussing on the signs and symptoms of dyslexia. Now, coming to that point, I'll be discussing on the sign and symptoms of dyslexia, how we as a teacher in a classroom can identify, at least can screen the child with dyslexia. So, it's important to be able to recognize the signs and symptoms of dyslexia, right? The earlier a child is examined, the sooner he or she can receive the instruction and accommodation needed to succeed in school. We as a teacher, we are much responsible to provide them this kind of adaptation, modification as per their needs. So, some of the problems that people or we can say that children with dyslexia, they experience in a regular basis, like learning to talk, then learning letters and their sounds, organizing written and spoken language, memorizing numerical facts. Then they have problem reading rapidly, fluently, then keeping up with and completing lengthier reading assignments. If we are giving them some reading assignment, lengthier reading assignment, then it will be difficult for them to complete that assignment on time. Then there is a serious problem they face in spelling of word. Then learning a foreign language, any foreign language learning is difficult for them. Then correctly doing mathematical operation also is a problem for them. So, now I'll discuss on the symptoms of dyslexia at different levels, like in preschool level. What are the symptoms that can be seen in children with dyslexia at the preschool level? So, these symptoms that includes delayed speech, then problem with pronunciation, problem with rhyming words, and learning rhymes is also difficult for them. Then there is they face difficulty with learning shapes, colors, and how to write their own name. These are also problem what they are facing. Then there is difficulty with retelling a story in the right order of events, like sequentially storytelling is difficult for them. And we all know that it's a common practice as a teacher. We used to provide in language skill storytelling, right? So, storytelling, when we are asking a child with dyslexia, that child may face problem when retelling the story, maintaining the sequences of the story. So, that is a problem. Now, see at the primary level, what are the symptoms can be seen, which includes problems with reading a single word. Then they regularly confuse certain letters when they are writing, like D and B. They face problem writing D and B. Even for reading also they face problem, like M and W. These are similar letters. So they have some problem with this. letters particularly. Then regularly write words backwards. That is another problem which can be seen in children with dyslexia. So, I am giving you one example, like if he wants to write pit, P-I-T, pit. So, but he may write tip backwardly, the write words backwards, like instead of writing P-I-T, he may write T-I-P. So, that kind of problems can be seen at the primary level. Then, they may have problem with grammar such as learning prefix and suffix, poor reading, all the symptoms as I am mentioning. This definitely leads to poor reading skills, in bad spelling, including different misspelling of the same word in one written assignment. They may have difficulties when they have to write an assignment, and if we as a teacher, if we see the pattern of their writing, we can definitely able to understand what type of problems they are facing when we'll see their writing pattern and what kind of spelling they are misspelled. So, difficulties with writing summaries also difficult for them, like that means comprehension. Comprehension is a big problem for them. So, which leads to difficulties in writing summaries of a paragraph. Then problems with learning foreign language, that also mentioned previously. So, now I come to the end of this discussion, and I'll show you some celebrities who are having dyslexia. Like we all know Albert Einstein, he was having dyslexia. Then J.F. Kennedy, Spielberg. Then if we mention in our Bollywood also, we have Abhishek Bachchan, who is a famous actor who is having dyslexia. So, these are the celebrities I mentioned. Thank you so much and namaskar.